Okay, so I want to continue in section 3.5, part 2 video. And in the last half of this section, what we're doing is we're trying to find the equation of a line. I gave you a note in the last section that said this: to get the equation of any line, there's two things you must know. You must know a point, and you must know the slope. You cannot find the equation of a line without knowing those two things. So you have to know the slope, and you have to know a point. Now, if your point turns out to be the y-intercept, 0 comma something, you can use y equal mx plus b, and you're done. But if your point is not the y-intercept, you can't use y equal mx plus b. You have to use that point slope formula that I gave you in the last video. So I want to pick up with the examples. This will be example 2 on this problem. And I said, find the equation of a line. And I'm going to tell you these two facts. Here are the two facts. We're told that the slope is -3, and we're told that the line passes through that point -2 comma 5. So, how do I find the equation of this line right here? All right, two things I have to know: a point and a slope. Do I have a point? Yes, I do. Do I have the slope? Yes, I do. Now, can I use y equal mx plus b? No. And the reason I cannot is because this is not 0 comma 5. But I can use the point slope formula to work this problem. So I will use that to work this problem. So we will call this point x1, y1. Of course, that's m. And so then I'll have y minus y1 equals to m times x minus x1. So this would be y minus y1 is 5 equals to m, which is -3, parentheses, x minus an x1 is -2. Yes, you have to put another negative there. So you put in for x1 and y1, you don't put in for x and y. That's why they don't have subscripts, by the way. All right, now I told you that on all these, we write our final answer getting the y by itself. So I'm going to do two things. Well, first, let's make the double negatives a positive. I'm going to distribute with this -3. So this would be -3x, and a -3 times a +2 is -6. Now, to get the y by itself, you have to add 5 to both sides. And when I add 5 to both sides, the equation now becomes -3x minus 1. Now, let me just show you something right quick. You don't have to check these. I just want to show you. First of all, does this line, does it really have a slope of -3? Yes, it does. Y equal mx plus b. So look at that point right there. Now, let me show you something else. Let me show you that this line actually goes through this point, -2 comma 5. If you let this be x and you let that be y, if you graph this line and it goes through that point, that means this ordered pair has to be an answer to this problem. So, let's take 5. You don't have to do this now, just watch. Take 5 and put it in for y, so you get 5 equals 2, -3. Now put the -2 in right here. And this is 5 equals 2. That's a +6 minus 1. And that's 5 equal 5. That does work. So that is a solution to that problem. So what that means graphically is if you graph this line, it goes through that point. So what we have done is we have found the equation of a line that goes through this point that has this slope. Okay? Let's do another example. This next example works the exact same way, but the algebra will be a little bit different. So let's suppose the slope is 2/3. And let's suppose that the line passes through the point 2, -5. All right, what are we trying to do here? We're trying to get the equation, find the equation of a line that goes through this point that has that slope. All right, what two things do we have to know? A point and a slope. Do we have a point? Yes, we do. Do we have the slope? Yes. But this point is not the y-intercept. So I cannot use y equal mx plus b. But I can use that point slope formula. So what I will do is I will come to this ordered pair, x1, y1. That's m. And I've got y minus y1 equals to m times x minus x1. Y minus -5 equals m, which is 2/3, times x minus, and then x1 is 2. Now, this is going to go back and review back over something we did actually the first or second video of the semester. First, double negatives gives me a positive. I want to get the y by itself, so we're going to distribute here. So I've got y plus 5 equals 2/3 times x is 2/3 x. Then a positive times a negative is a negative. Now I've got to take 2/3 times 2. I'll do that over here on the side. Remember when we were talking about multiplying with fractions, you just multiply straight across. So that's 4/3. You can cross cancel if anything will cross cancel, but nothing cross cancels here. So this is 4/3. Now I've got to subtract 5 from both sides to get the y by itself. So this would be y equals 2/3 x minus 4/3 minus 5. All right, now, we got one more step here. Here's why. I can add these two numbers together. Now, it's not as easy as adding two whole numbers, but I've got to add them. Now, did we do that in the last example? Well, let's flip back and see. Sure did. Here's these two numbers right here. We added them together. So we're going to do the same thing here. Now, how do I add -4/3 minus 5? Let me come down here for my scratch work. Remember, in adding and subtracting fractions, you have to have a common denominator. The common denominator for 3 and 1 is 3. Signs won't change. This will stay 4. Say 3 goes into 3 one time. 1 times 4 is 4. Then 1 goes into 3 3 times. 3 times 5 is 15. And then the denominator stays the same. If you lose 4 and then you lose 15, you have lost 19. So this will be 2/3 x minus 19/3. And this is the equation of the line. So what made this, were the steps any different? No. But I had to remember how to multiply with fractions, and then I had to remember how to add and subtract two fractions by getting a common denominator. So that's the equation of that line by using the point slope formula. Okay, let's do two more examples. Number 4. Line passes through, let's see, let's call it -3, 7. And then let's suppose I tell you this, that the line is horizontal. Now, you say, now wait a minute. I thought if you told me if the line, I thought I had to know, to get the equation of a line, I have to know two things. I have to know a point, and I have to know the slope. That is correct. I know a point. And you say, well, we don't know the slope. Yes, we do. Because if the line is horizontal, I automatically know that the slope is what? Slope is 0. So, from this, I know that the slope is 0. Okay, now, I'm fixing to show you 2 ways to do this one. But you got to know your facts. There's one quick way to do it, and then there's another way to do it. Here's the quick way to do it. If you have a horizontal line, do you remember which letter has to be in your equation? Is it just a X or just a Y? It's just a Y. So, my answer is going to have a Y in it, and it ain't going to have an X in it. So, the answer to this problem is Y equal some number. It's not going to have an X in it. Now, look at your ordered pair. What is Y in your ordered pair? It is 7. That's your answer to that problem. Now, let's suppose you didn't remember that. You say, well, Mr. Rayner, could we do it like we did the others by using the point slope formula since we know the slope is 0? We sure can. You can call this x1, y1. There's your slope, m. So it's y minus y1 equals to m times x minus x1. So this would be y minus 7 equal m, which is 0, times x minus negative 3. Double negatives gives me a positive. But when you distribute with the 0, y minus 7, 0 times x is 0. 0 times 3 is also 0. So there's nothing left over here. If you add 7 to both sides so that we can get the y by itself, we get y equals 7, which is exactly the same thing that we had back up at the top. Y equals 7, y equals 7. So it doesn't matter to me which way you do it. Quickest is the top one if you catch that going through. So if the line is horizontal or the slope is 0, you can go straight to the equation and it's going to be y equal whatever that second number right there is. Always. Or if you don't want to do that, use your point slope formula. Okay, now let's do another one. Let's suppose the line passes through the point, negative 3, 7. And suppose the line now is vertical. Okay, so let's see. To get the equation of a line, I have to have a point and a slope. I have a point, but I don't have the slope. However, since the line is vertical, I know what the slope is. A vertical line is the only kind of line we do not give slope to. So this right here means the slope is undefined. Now, on this one, you do not have an option on using the point slope formula. And the reason is this. If I'm going to use the point slope formula, what are you going to put in for the slope? It's undefined. There's nothing to put in place of it. So on this one, whenever you're dealing with a vertical line or undefined slope, you cannot use the point slope formula because you don't have a value to plug in for that slope. On this one, you have to remember your special case. So let's see. If the line is vertical, that means the slope is undefined. Then that means the equation either will have just a x or just a y. Well, this one will have just a x. So the answer to this problem is going to be x equal, and it's going to be whatever that x number is, which is the first number, x equal 3. So that's a special case of that problem. Okay, let's do one more example to close out this section. Okay, so let's suppose the the line passes through the point, -2, 3, and 4, 10. All right, this one's a little different. So let's talk through it. Let's see, what do we have to know to get the equation of a line? A point and a slope. Do I know a point? Yes. As a matter of fact, I know 2 points. The slope. Do I know the slope? No. So I can't go any further in this problem till I first of all find the slope. Now, did he give me enough information to find the slope? Sure did. Can we find the slope of a line if we have 2 points? Yes, we did that in section 3.4 at the beginning of section 3.4. How do we find the slope of a line if we know 2 points? We use the slope formula. So what I'm going to do here is m equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. y2 is 10, y1 is 3, x2 is 4, x1 is -2. Double negatives here gives me a positive, so this would be 7 over 6. That's the slope. Now that's not the answer to the problem. That's just the slope. But now that I have found the slope, I can now use my point slope formula because I now have the slope and a point. Now, one common question right here is usually asked is this: Mr. Rayner, when you use the point slope formula, does it matter which point you use? No, it does not. But I would suggest, since the x1, y1 is here, I would go ahead and use this point, and I would not use this one. Will you get the same answer? Yes, you will. But I'm just going to use that first point right here, and then the 7, 6, I'm going to put it right here. All right, so let's do that. So this would be y minus y1 is 3, from right here, equals m, which is 7 over 6, times x minus, and then x1 is -2. Double negatives gives me a positive. So this is y minus 3 equals, we're going to distribute, 7, 6x plus, I'll come to the side over here. How do we multiply 7 over 6 times 2 over 1? Straight across, that's 14 over 6, but that reduces to 7 over 3 because 2 goes into both of those. So this becomes 7 over 3. So here is the scratch work for that. Okay, now add 3 to both sides, so I get y equals to 7 over 6x plus 7 over 3 plus 3, and I'm going to write this 3 over 1. Now, let me come to the side over here. 7 over 3 plus 3 over 1. Add 2 fractions by getting a common denominator. The common denominator is 3. 3 goes into 3 one time. 1 times 7 is 7. 1 goes into 3 3 times. 3 times 3 is 9. And when you add those together, you get 16 thirds. And so this is the equation of that line. So the only difference in this one and the others we did is you had to find the slope first. Then once you find the slope, you still use the point slope formula. Okay, this concludes section 3.5. Now remember, your midterm exam stops right here. Chapter 5 is next. If you're staying on task, you should have worked 2 or 3 sections in chapter 5 before you take your midterm exam. But the chapter 5 stuff is not on the midterm. So your midterm covers everything from section 2.1 to right here. You will also find in your homework a midterm a review if you're in the summer class. And so summer day class or night class for that matter. So you'll find a midterm review. Make sure that you practice that midterm review, and that will give you an idea of what you need to be able to do on your midterm exam. So this completes this video. This completes section 3.5, and it completes all of the material on lines. Next section coming up will be chapter 5, and we'll veer and go into a completely different direction. We're through with graphing. We'll go into a completely different direction of mathematics called exponents. And we dabbled with that a little bit earlier in the course. So, all right, so next video, section 5.1, part 1.